Imagine waking up completely aware, but unable to move a single muscle. Your eyes are open, perhaps you can even see your bedroom, but your body is a lead weight, unresponsive to your desperate commands. Then the terror truly sets in. A crushing pressure on your chest, a chilling presence in the room, shadows that shift and coalesce into menacing figures, or whispers that curl around your ears. This isn't just a bad dream. It's sleep paralysis, an experience so viscerally terrifying that historically, it's been blamed on demons, succubi, and ancient night hags. What if I told you that this horrifying ordeal isn't supernatural, but a bizarre, fascinating, and sometimes even adaptive glitch in your own brain's complex machinery? By the end of this video, you'll not only understand precisely what happens in your neurons and neurochemicals during these episodes, but you'll also know practical, science-backed ways to manage them and even prevent them from happening. For centuries, across every culture, stories of night demons and malevolent spirits tormenting sleepers have persisted. These weren't just campfire tales. They were genuine, deeply disturbing accounts from people who felt trapped, terrorized, and utterly helpless in their own beds. Even today, despite advancements in neuroscience, many still cling to these ancient narratives, or simply dismiss sleep paralysis as just a nightmare without understanding its unique neurobiological underpinnings. This isn't some fleeting dream state. It's a profound, terrifying disjunction between mind and body that happens to an estimated 5 to 8% of the global population at some point in their lives, with some studies showing rates as high as 40 to 50% in certain populations. The sheer primal fear it evokes demands a scientific explanation, especially when you consider that for those who experience it regularly, it can lead to severe sleep anxiety, avoidance of sleep, and a significant drop in quality of life. Understanding why your brain orchestrates this waking nightmare is the first step toward reclaiming your nights and debunking the myths that have held us captive for too long. We're going to pull back the curtain on this terrifying phenomenon and reveal the intricate dance of neurons and neurochemicals that creates it, proving it's far stranger and more rational than any ghost story. So, let's dive into the core neurobiological reality of sleep paralysis. At its heart, what you're experiencing is a mixed state of consciousness, a bizarre hybrid where your brain is simultaneously trying to be awake and deep in REM sleep. This isn't mere speculation. It's what cutting-edge electroencephalogram, or EEG, recordings unequivocally show. During an episode, an EEG will display an abundance of alpha waves, oscillating between 8 to 12 Hz. If you know anything about brain waves, you'll recognize alpha waves as typical of a relaxed, yet fully awake state, the kind you might experience right before falling asleep or during meditation. But here's the twist. These alpha waves are completely blended with theta waves, which operate at 4 to 8 Hz and are characteristic of REM sleep. It's like your brain's operating system has loaded two conflicting programs at once, creating a disorienting, terrifying overlap. But the mixed state doesn't stop there. Crucially, while your conscious awareness is rapidly returning, hence the alpha waves, your muscles remain completely paralyzed. This is known as muscle atonia, a natural and essential feature of REM sleep. During REM, your brainstem actively inhibits motor neurons, effectively paralyzing your body to prevent you from acting out your vivid dreams. Imagine if you didn't have this fail-safe. Every time you dreamt of running, punching, or screaming, your body would follow suit, potentially causing serious injury to yourself or your sleep partner. In sleep paralysis, this protective mechanism simply overstays its welcome. As a 2024 Dove Press review on sleep paralysis and sleep quality succinctly puts it, PSG recordings of the episodes suggest that the state of sleep paralysis can be described as a mixed state of consciousness, blending elements of wakefulness and REM sleep, clearly noting the EEG showing alpha activity mixed with REM patterns, alongside that flatlined EMG for atonia. It's a physiological limbo, where your mind tries to race, but your body is still stuck in neutral. In fact, scientists have even mathematically replicated sleep paralysis brain activity patterns by combining EEG data from wakefulness and REM sleep in a single subject case study, confirming this precise neural blend. The practical takeaway from understanding this mixed state is profound. It immediately demystifies the experience. Your body isn't being held down by an external entity. It's being held down by your own brain's internal mechanism. Recognizing this can be incredibly empowering. It shifts your perspective from being a helpless victim of something unknown to an informed observer of a temporary, albeit frightening, physiological phenomenon. But here's where it gets even more interesting, and perhaps a bit counterintuitive. While conventional wisdom often frames sleep paralysis purely as a disorder, a dysfunction, there's a compelling, contrarian angle that suggests it might actually be an adaptive fail-safe glitch. Think of it this way. Your brain has an anti-injury system designed to keep you safe during the vivid, action-packed world of dreams. The muscle paralysis of REM sleep is a crucial component of this system. Now, consider what happens in sleep paralysis. Consciousness returns, but the muscle atonia persists. This isn't a complete system failure. It's almost an overzealous success of the paralysis mechanism. Let me explain the neurochemistry. Your brain's ability to properly deactivate REM atonia neurons, which primarily reside in the sublateral SLD nucleus of the brainstem, is critically linked to a neurotransmitter called orexin. Orexin is a key regulator of wakefulness and REM sleep, helping to transition you smoothly between sleep stages. In conditions like narcolepsy, there's a significant deficiency in orexin, leading to sudden, inappropriate shifts into REM sleep, sometimes directly from wakefulness, which is why narcolepsy patients frequently experience sleep paralysis. However, most people who experience sleep paralysis don't have narcolepsy-level orexin loss. Instead, their orexin levels might just be slightly out of sync, or their brain's sleep-wake switch is simply a bit confused. During fragmented REM cycles, which are common with stress, irregular sleep, or sleep deprivation, the brain struggles to properly disengage the REM-specific paralysis as it tries to wake up. Essentially, the sleep-on cholinergic drive, which promotes REM, might be in overdrive, while the sleep-off serotonergic activity, which helps transition out of REM, might be underactive. This hybrid state traps the brain in a protective mode, maintaining muscle paralysis, even as your conscious mind begins to emerge. It's as if the safety wiring for dream enactment prevention is amplified, becoming overzealous, especially when our modern lifestyles, full of stress and sleep disruption, throw our delicate neurochemical balance out of whack. So, instead of a purely pathological event, it could be viewed as an exaggerated protective response, a better safe than sorry mechanism that's just a little too good at its job, ironically causing terror in the process. This reframing from a purely pathological event to an exaggerated protective response can dramatically reduce the fear associated with an episode. You're not being attacked. Your brain is simply overcompensating to prevent a theoretical injury. This perspective alone can alleviate some of the psychological burden. Okay, so your brain is in a mixed state, and its protective mechanisms are perhaps a little too enthusiastic. But what about the bone-chilling hallucinations, the sense of dread, the crushing weight? These terrifying sensations are not figments of your imagination in the supernatural sense. They are direct consequences of specific brain regions going haywire during this REM-wake mismatch, amplified by a primal fear response. First, let's talk about the fear itself. During sleep paralysis, the amygdala, the brain's primary fear processing center, goes into overdrive. A probiologist study on sleep paralysis neurobiology explicitly states, the amygdala's hyperactivation during SP correlates with intense fear and perceived threat during hallucinations. This means your brain is pumping out fear chemicals, even when there's no objective threat, predisposing you to interpret any sensory input, or lack thereof, as terrifying. Simultaneously, there's often an impairment in the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thought and executive function. So, you're experiencing intense, unfiltered fear without the calming, rational override that typically kicks in when you're awake. Then come the hallucinations. The visual, auditory, and tactile hallucinations that characterize sleep paralysis are largely driven by serotonin overactivity, specifically via 5-HT2A receptors in your visual cortex and limbic system. These are the same receptors targeted by psychedelic drugs, and their overactivity during REM-wake transitions can spontaneously trigger vivid, often distorted, and fear-inducing imagery and sounds. You might see shadowy figures, feel a presence, or hear whispers, not because they're real, but because your brain's sensory processing centers are misfiring in a chaotic, dreamlike state while you're technically conscious. And that crushing chest pressure? That's also rooted in physiology. During REM sleep, alveolar ventilation, which is the rate at which gas gets exchanged in your lungs, drops by up to 40% compared to wakefulness. This leads to a mild state of hypercapnia, an increase in carbon dioxide in your blood, and a reduced tidal volume, meaning you're taking shallower breaths. While normally harmless during deep sleep, when you're conscious during sleep paralysis, your brain interprets this physiological change, combined with the lack of voluntary muscle control, as a sensation of suffocation or immense pressure on your chest. It's a very real physical sensation, born not of an incubus, but of your own respiratory system operating in a REM-induced state while your conscious mind perceives it. Even the feeling of floating or having an out-of-body experience has a neurological explanation. The superior parietal lobule, another brain region mentioned in the probiologist study, contributes to these body schema distortions. It's involved in spatial awareness and integrating sensory information about your body's position. When this area is disoriented during the mixed state, your brain can create the unsettling sensation that your body isn't quite where it should be, or that you're somehow separate from it. The practical takeaway here is vital. These experiences are neurologically induced, not supernatural. They are the terrifying, but ultimately harmless byproducts of a brain caught between worlds. Knowing this can provide a powerful mental anchor during an episode, helping you remind yourself that it's your brain playing tricks, not an external threat. This awareness alone can significantly diminish the intensity of the fear. So we've covered the what and the why of the brain state and the hallucinations. Now, let's talk about the when and the how to prevent. Sleep paralysis isn't random. It's often triggered by specific sleep disruptions and occurs more frequently during particular phases of sleep. Understanding these patterns is your first step toward prevention. One common misconception is that episodes only happen when you're falling asleep. While they can occur then, most recorded episodes, a significant 75%, in fact, are linked to fragmented REM cycles, particularly during or after sleep-onset REM periods or SORMs. A SORM is when you enter REM sleep unusually quickly after falling asleep, rather than going through the typical non-REM stages first. This rapid entry into REM, often triggered by sleep deprivation or irregular sleep schedules, is like jolting your sleep architecture, making those REM-wake transitions far more prone to error. Consider the role of sleep latency, the time it takes you to fall asleep. Studies have found that people who experience sleep paralysis tend to have significantly longer sleep latency, averaging 40.6 minutes, compared to narcolepsy patients, 19.5 minutes, and even healthy controls, 19.2 minutes. This suggests that difficulty initiating sleep can contribute to the instability of your sleep architecture, potentially making those subsequent REM transitions more volatile. Your REM latency, the time it takes to enter your first REM cycle, also plays a role. While REM latency in sleep paralysis participants, 83.2 minutes, is longer than in narcolepsy, 32.1 minutes. It's similar to healthy controls, 98.7 minutes. This subtle difference, alongside the significantly longer sleep latency, points to a general disruption in sleep onset and architecture that sets the stage for these episodes. The overarching takeaway here is that irregular sleep schedules, chronic sleep deprivation, and high stress levels are huge culprits. They confuse your brainstem's delicate signaling systems, increasing the likelihood of fragmented REM and potentially spiking episodes by 2 to 3 times. Your brain thrives on routine, and when you deprive it of that or constantly shift its schedule, it's more likely to misfire during these critical sleep-wake transitions. Armed with this intricate understanding, what are the practical, actionable steps you can take, not just to understand sleep paralysis, but to manage or even prevent it? First and foremost, stabilize your REM transitions. This means aiming for a consistent bedtime and wake-up time, even on weekends, and ensuring you get 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep every night. Avoid irregular sleep schedules, as they confuse your brainstem signaling and are a primary cause of those fragmented REM cycles that spike episodes. Your brain loves predictability, and a stable sleep schedule provides the framework for smoother transitions between sleep stages. Next, implement a pre-sleep ritual that calms your nervous system. Before bed, practice a simple breathing technique like 4-7-8 breathing. Inhale deeply for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 7 seconds, and then exhale slowly for 8 seconds. Do this for 5 minutes. This technique helps to reduce amygdala hyperactivity, quieting that fear center, and can also mitigate the risk of hypercapnia and the associated chest pressure during REM. It prepares your brain for a calm, uninterrupted sleep. During an episode, should one occur, the most effective strategy is to focus your mental effort on twitching a single finger or a single toe repeatedly. Do not struggle against the full-body paralysis that only amplifies your fear and prolongs the episode. Instead, concentrate intensely on that smallest movement. This small, focused motor command can often override the brainstem autonomia faster than trying to move your entire body, helping your brain to fully wake up and ending the paralysis in a matter of seconds. It's backed by the reversibility shown in those mixed wake-REM EEG patterns, A small but consistent signal can shift your brain back to full wakefulness. Finally, track and tweak. Start logging your episodes. Note the date, estimated time, how much sleep you got the night before, your stress levels, and any caffeine or alcohol intake. You can even use sleep tracking apps to get hints about your sleep latency and REM patterns. This data will reveal your personal triggers. Based on your findings, make adjustments. Cut caffeine post-noon. Incorporate 30 minutes of daily walking to boost orexin levels, which helps regulate sleep-wake cycles and generally improve your sleep architecture. Better sleep architecture, characterized by healthy non-REM and REM cycles, reduces the risk of SORMs and strengthens your brain's ability to transition smoothly. So, let's recap. Sleep paralysis is not a supernatural visitation but a temporary, mixed state of consciousness where your awake brain meets your paralyzed REM body. It might even be an overzealous adaptive fail-safe of your brain's anti-injury system, exaggerated by modern stressors. The terror, the hallucinations, and the crushing sensations are all products of specific brain regions like the amygdala going haywire, serotonin overactivity, and changes in your respiratory physiology. And critically, it's often triggered by irregular sleep patterns and sleep deprivation. You are not helpless against it. You can stabilize your REM transitions through consistent sleep, practice calming pre-sleep rituals like 4-7-8 breathing, and during an episode, you can actively regain control by focusing on twitching a single digit. By tracking your patterns and making small, informed lifestyle changes, you can significantly reduce the frequency and intensity of these terrifying experiences. If this deep dive into the neuroscience of sleep paralysis changed how you think about this common, yet terrifying, phenomenon, please hit that subscribe button. I break down complex scientific topics like this every week, giving you the knowledge and the power to understand your world and your body better. Share this video with anyone who's ever wondered what truly happens during those waking nightmares.